Hi, good evening. Welcome along to a new look transfer show. I know what you're thinking. Rose between two thorns. You'd be right. Dharmesh chef Mark McAdam are here to bring you the definitive guide to today's top transfer news. Coming up, the latest on Harry Kane. Bayern Munich have had their latest bid rejected, but talks continue. Time is running out, though, if Kane wants his future sorted by the weekend. Crystal Palace already know they could face a real fight to keep Michael Olise this summer. News on his future coming up. We start, though, with a player who has absolutely dominated this agenda of the summer, Harry Kane. And for the very latest, we can speak to Paul Gilmore, who's been across this story throughout. OK, Paul, what's the very latest?
Well, Mike, the very latest is that Harry Kane has been subject, of course, of this final offer from Bayern Munich. They put pressure on Tottenham to accept it. They wanted an answer quickly. Well, Tottenham have responded, not as quickly maybe as they wanted, but Tottenham have rejected this offer. But our information is that negotiations still ongoing because neither side, despite this rejection, have walked away from the negotiations. So that is bad news in the sense of it will drag on and continue to drag on. But we didn't expect anything else from a Bayern Munich perspective. They feel that they have compromised in that there was a minimum £20 million gap in valuation when representatives from the two clubs met in London last week. Well, this offer that Bayern put in on Friday was they felt they compromised in the sense that they reduced that gap. Of course, that's not enough for Tottenham. Tottenham still feel it doesn't match their valuation, and that is why they have rejected this. But Bayern will feel the door is still open because nobody has walked away from the negotiations, and that's the interesting part of this. It's what we've become accustomed to in big transfer sagas, but of course we are at a critical point of the negotiations. The end game does feel close because they're getting to that stage of the negotiation, but Tottenham have made their feelings clear. They have shown that they will not be pushed around by Bayern Munich. Yeah,
Tottenham clearly not being bullied, but what happens next? Because something's got to give.
Well, what happens next depends on Bayern Munich. We're being told that they could well improve their offer, despite that insistence of it being a final offer. Perhaps it feels like that was just part of the tactic, really, to put pressure on Tottenham, because I think it suits Bayern Munich to get that done quickly. They ideally want him in their squad for the Super Cup this weekend. It also suits Harry Kane, who we're told is relaxed and continuing business as normal, focus on Tottenham until told otherwise. And told otherwise means a bid has been accepted. That has not happened yet, despite the Bayern Munich getting closer. Still not enough for Tottenham, and Harry Kane continues to be a Tottenham player.
Paul, thanks very much. You know, everyone's had their say, haven't they, about Harry Kane. Paul's had his say, everyone in the whole world. So, Dejan Kulusevski, he was on media duty today, and it was his turn.
I think we all saw like everything's with everybody's talking. How is it? What will happen? But we go out, we win 5-1. He scored 4 goals. It just shows that we are ready to play. Whatever happens, we are professionals, and really, we all can learn something from him. Scoring 4 goals like that is very, very good.
Right, we are going to talk Harry Kane much more at 7 o'clock. And the former Tottenham goalkeeper Brad Friedel will join us then. But in the meantime, let's get into what's going on now. Dharmesh, Romeo Lavia, what's the latest on him?
Yeah, this is news that has just emerged in the past few minutes, actually, to Sky Sports News. And we understand that Southampton have rejected Liverpool's third offer for their midfielder, Romeo Lavia. The bid is understood to be in the region of £45 million. Talks are ongoing, we are told, between the clubs. But Southampton, we think, are standing firm on their £50 million valuation. So Southampton have rejected Liverpool's third offer for their midfielder, Romeo Lavia. We know that Chelsea have also been keen to sign Romeo Lavia as well. We were told as well that Liverpool and Chelsea would not have any problems when it came to personal terms. But Liverpool are the ones who have really been pushing with the bid towards Southampton. Chelsea have yet to make an offer, a formal one, for Romeo Lavia, and we think, as Mark will explain now, that they may be moving on to other targets.
Yeah, we know that Mauricio Pochettino is keen to add to his midfield areas, and there's a lot of talk about Moises Caicedo, which we'll get onto into a few moments. But Romeo Lavia, one player of interest, but someone that is developing a more significant interest at the moment is the Leeds midfielder, Tyler Adams, 24-year-old. Now, it's our understanding and information that he has a £20 million release clause, so could leave Ellen Road in this summer's window, despite joining just a year ago. There are thought to be discussions underway at Chelsea at the moment as to whether they meet the release clause or they talk to Leeds about a potential structured payment deal. Release clauses often mean the release clause is a release clause. You pay that, you don't even need to speak to the club, essentially, other than to say, we're going to pay it. However, if Chelsea decide, actually, we want to be a little bit more flexible with the payment terms here, let's engage in conversation and see what can happen there. He's into obviously a long-term contract at the football club, but this release clause makes it far more simple for him to leave Leeds, as we've seen with other players at the football club at the moment. So, yeah, that is one to monitor, because we know that Chelsea wants to add not just one, but two midfielders in this window.
And that's not all Chelsea wants to add to, is it?
But just on what Mark was saying there, when you talk about trying to make a structured payment when someone's got a release clause, Chelsea have actually done that in this transfer window already. When they bought Nicholas Jackson from Villarreal, they actually paid more than the release clause that Villarreal had for Nicholas Jackson, but because they did a structured payment, they end up paying more to Villarreal overall, hence why Villarreal accepted that bid. Because if Chelsea meet the release clause for Tyler Adams, they don't actually need to speak to Leeds. They can just say, there's the trigger of the release clause, we can speak to Tyler Adams if he wants to speak to us. Whereas if they want to do a structured deal, that's when they'll have to go to Leeds United and say, look, we might be able to pay you a bit more, but this is how we want to structure the deal. Mark mentioned rightly there that they're after not one, but two midfielders in this transfer window. We talked about maybe they're cooling their interest in Romeo Lavia and going for Tyler Adams. They're not cooling their interest in the Brighton midfielder, Moises Caicedo. This, I'm told, could be a crucial week as far as Moises Caicedo's future is concerned. We expect Chelsea to go back in with an improved offer. Remember, they've had an £80 million bid rejected. That was the latest one. Brighton, we think, want closer to £100 million. Over the weekend, Moises Caicedo was given the weekend off, in inverted commas. He missed the pre-season game against Rayo Vallecano on Sunday, and we're told that was so he could focus on the Premier League opener this Saturday against Luton Town. But it is amid all of this speculation about his future. What we do know is that Caicedo wants Chelsea, and Chelsea are getting encouragement that Caicedo wants to come to Stamford Bridge. And Roberto De Zerbi was asked the question, as you knew he would, post-match after that game against Rayo Vallecano on Sunday. His answer was, I can't guarantee whether Moises Caicedo will be a Brighton player come the end of the transfer window.
OK, so look, we'll keep an eye on that one. Still. I want to whiz through some more. Chelsea, looking busy. Michael Elise, bit of interest in him, is there?
They're keen on him. They are keen on him, no question about it, in the Crystal Palace forward. Talks are ongoing behind the scenes, we're told, about whether Chelsea want to meet Elise's release clause or, rather like the Tyler Adams deal, speak to Crystal Palace and talk about a more structured deal. Manchester City also thought to be interested. Now, Roy Hodgson spoke last week. He's been speaking today as well. He was asked a question about Elise's future, and he says, last week, it'll be difficult to keep players like Elise and Eberiche Eze. And today, he says, it's effectively not in his hands because it's something that the club are going to have to decide. Does he want to keep Michael Elise? Of course he does. Who wouldn't? But the fact of the matter is, if someone comes up with a deal that Palace can't effectively refuse or the release clause is met, then it's going to be up to Elise himself.
Right, OK, Mark, you've got some news of a deal that's moved on today.
With regards to
Livramento, is that right?
Yes, that one is good news for Newcastle fans as far as they're concerned, because the medical got completed this morning. Just waiting on official confirmation now from the football club that this one has been done. But this would bring Eddie Howe's summer signings to over £100 million worth, and Tino would be their third.
You're waving your hands around. What you got? Breaking news.
Yeah, this is something we've been expecting. West Ham United have announced the departure of Gianluca Scamacca to Atalanta. The deal is worth €32 million. We think West Ham United will get €26 million in an initial payment, plus €6 million in performance-related add-ons. He's been having his medical, Scamacca, in Rome over the past couple of days. And the deal, we think, will see West Ham United effectively recouped the majority of the transfer fee they paid Sassuolo this time last year. It just hasn't worked out for him, be it with injuries and form and having a run in the team. Only 16 starts, scored 8 goals, but it's now over for Scamacca and West Ham. Such fanfare when he joined, but he's now on his way to Atalanta.
All right, let's take a break then, gentlemen. Loads more to come. We've got news from Arsenal, more on West Ham, and with the countdown on until the end of the window, we'll get the latest on Kylian Mbappe. Remember him? Well, there's news coming out of France on Neymar this evening. That and more to come. See you in a moment. Hello again, this is the Transfer Show. We'd all forgotten about Kylian Mbappe, hadn't we? Until now. Mark McAdam, what's going on with him?
How could you forget about Kylian Mbappe? Yeah, more developments, more backing and forthing from the PSG hierarchy and, of course, his camp. He continues to train away from the first team at PSG, and our understanding is at the moment that there's been no official offer other than the one that came from the Saudi Pro League for his services. It's important to point out that PSG have said all along they believe that he already has an agreement in place to join Real Madrid on a free transfer next summer. PSG also believe that he will be the subject of a half-hearted bid from Real Madrid at the end of this transfer window with 1 or 2 days to go. So, yeah, the saga continues. We know that he has a desire to one day play for Real Madrid, but at the moment it almost feels like frustrations on both parts. He's not playing in the first team, not being treated with respect. PSG believe that he's not treating them with any respect as well. So it's becoming a little bit of a messy situation. And again, to add more misery to the current PSG setup and situation, there has been more developments in the last few hours today. And this comes from L'Équipe as well, who are saying that Neymar Jr. has informed his management team that he wants to leave PSG this summer, and that he has no interest in playing for the club beyond the current situation. So, yeah, that could be two big hitters, both leading PSG over the course of this summer, who have been big parts of what the club has done over the last few years. So, yeah, one to keep an eye on for sure.
That's a sacre bleu, that, isn't it? Darmesh, West Ham, we keep saying West Ham not signed anybody. Is that about to change?
You said messy situation, I like that. All three could be gone by very soon. Yes, look, Declan Rice signed for £100 million by Arsenal from West Ham United, rising to £105 million. Who is filling that hole? So many players that West Ham United have been interested in, but they have an agreement in principle with one of them now, and that is with Ajax for their Mexico international, Edson Alvarez. He's expected to fly into the UK tomorrow to take a medical. West Ham will be hoping that they can get all of that done in time for him to feature over the weekend against Bournemouth in their Premier League opener. Personal terms are as good as agreed, so this one is very, very close. Another player that they remain interested in is the Manchester United midfielder Scott McTominay. No formal bid as yet because they have been focusing on trying to sign Alvarez from Ajax, but we do know that he is a player that David Moyes has been a long-term admirer of. Interestingly, McTominay wasn't in the squad for either of Manchester United's pre-season friendlies over the weekend, on loans on Saturday and Athletic Bilbao yesterday.
What about another Man United player that we thought they were interested in? Harry Maguire. Is he going to be a hammer?
David Moyes will certainly be hoping so. And our information is that Manchester United, despite having that opening bid of £20 million rejected, that West Ham are preparing to go in a second time. Manchester United, we know, would be open to selling Harry Maguire, but only at the right price and a fair market value price as well. He started against Bilbao on Sunday. We know that there's ongoing discussions with Johnny Evans, who's at the club at the moment, who's got this short-term contract. But the fact that Ten Hag has always said it's up to Harry Maguire, what happens if he feels comfortable moving on, then of course we'll allow him to go, which is basically saying we want you to go, but there's no pressure.
No pressure indeed. That is one to keep an eye on, though. Darmesh, Arsenal's pursuit of David Raya, has that got a little bit nearer to them getting him over the line?
Yes, it looks that way. Arsenal, let's deal with Raya first of all. Arsenal are progressing in talks with Brentford to sign David Raya. Discussions ongoing over a compromise on the fee, because you remember Thomas Frank has been very public by saying he was one of the top 4 goalkeepers in the Premier League last season, so he's worth £40 million. He uses the example of Kepa being £70 million, so why shouldn't Raya be worth £40 million? Raya wants to make the move. Brentford want to do the deal. Arsenal want to do the deal, all because he's entered the final year of his contract. Hence, they're having these discussions over the compromise. Raya is still in the Brentford squad, though. He was an unused substitute for Brentford in their 0-0 draw against Lille on Saturday. And we think now that the move for Raya could be accelerated because of what's happening with Arsenal's current number 2, Matt Turner, was on the bench for the Community Shield against Manchester City yesterday. But now a deal has been agreed finally with Nottingham Forest worth £10 million. We think Arsenal will receive £7 million in an initial payment plus £3 million in performance-related add-ons. Turner, we are told, might even be in Nottingham now to take his medical. He won't be the only goalkeeper that Nottingham Forest are after. They remain in talks with Manchester United over a loan plus an obligation to sign Dean Henderson. That one is slightly complicated by how many games will it take to trigger that obligation. Manchester United want a few games. Nottingham Forest want to make sure that he's fully fit after suffering that serious thigh injury last season.
Right, absolutely. You've got some news on Berger.
Yeah, Sander Berger, the 25-year-old currently at Sheffield United, into the last year of his current Blades deal. Burnley are in talks with Sheffield United over a potential deal for the midfielder. Scored 6 goals in the Championship last season, of course, has played in the Premier League as well, so he'll bring that experience to Vincent Kompany's side should they get a deal done. He's also a Norway international as well. He's been playing a lot of international duty whilst at Sheffield United, but that is one to keep an eye on as well. Burnley and Sheffield United currently in talks.
Folarin Balogun.
Yeah, the developments today. We're told that Monaco have bid for Folarin Balogun. It was a written offer and it has been rejected by Arsenal. Arsenal are not budging at the moment on their valuation of around £50 million for Folarin Balogun. He's into the final 2 years of his contract, but he wants to make that move to get regular first-team football. What we do expect to happen now, though, is Inter Milan to really push to sign him. They were in for Lukaku, but he started talking to Juventus, so they said thanks, but no thanks. They went in for Balogun again, but couldn't agree a fee with Arsenal, so they switched their attention to Gianluca Scamacca. Thought they were going to get that deal done. Atalanta came in. They couldn't match the conditions that Atalanta were offering West Ham United. So as we've been mentioning, Scamacca is now an Atalanta player. So Inter Milan are refocusing their attentions back onto Folarin Balogun. For this deal to be done, though, it looks like Arsenal may just need to relax that £50 million asking price if Inter Milan are to be able to get this deal done.
You've just recapped on the Scamacca news, which is good because I was going to ask you to do that. If Scamacca has gone out the door, does that mean West Ham are close to bringing someone in the other way?
Striker-wise, it's a difficult one because we know that when Declan Rice left, that was going to be the main priority. And Mark has mentioned one of the other priorities was in central defence, and they're still looking at Harry Maguire. I think they want to focus on those two positions as their primary focus. As it stands, they've still got the likes of Mikel Antonio, Danny Ings, Divine Mbama as well. They've got 3 strikers in there. I think if one of those 3 were to leave, and there's lots of talk about Mikel Antonio, entered the final 2 years of his contract, there's been interest from a variety of clubs, including clubs in Saudi Arabia. If one of those was to leave, then I think West Ham United might have to revisit that.
And let's just recap on the Lavia. I can't remember which one of you told us about Lavia.
I'll give you one guess. The boss.
Lavia.
Thanks. Nicest thing you
So
told
just
me for a
recap
while.
for us.
Yeah, so Liverpool have made 1, 2, 3 bids now for the Southampton midfielder, Romeo Lavia. The latest is worth around £45 million. It has, as the other 2, been rejected by Southampton. We think Southampton are standing firm on their £50 million valuation for Romeo Lavia. We think Chelsea were interested as well. Personal terms not expected to be a problem with either Chelsea or Liverpool. But we think now that Chelsea are moving their attentions to the Leeds United midfielder, USA international, Tyler Adams. Definitely one to watch, but talks are ongoing between Liverpool and Southampton over Lavia.
How tough is it for Leeds? It's been a fire sale already, and just Premier League clubs, as always when clubs get relegated, picking off their players. This is a difficult time for them.
Yeah, it's frustrating. But what they've tried to do is try to protect the football club. Often when you go and try to sign a player, they will only sign the deal if it suits them. And it will suit a player if it's got a release clause that says, if we get relegated, I can leave for this fee next season. And if they don't have that inserted into their deal, there's a very good chance they wouldn't sign that contract in the first place. Obviously, Leeds also have to protect themselves and think about things financially. If you're paying a player £50,000 or £60,000 a week, in the Championship, that almost becomes unsustainable. So you have to also think, well, if these players aren't going to take a pay cut, we need to get them off the wage bill. And if that means sending them out on loan for a season or selling them for what we paid, then at least we balance the books, because that, in this day and age, is so crucial.
Mark, just remind us of Chelsea's search for a midfielder, where we are with that.
Yeah, this is going to be a fascinating one to watch how it plays out this week. We know that Mauricio Pochettino wants to add really 2 midfielders as a minimum to that Chelsea midfield. They have a passing interest in a number of players. Moises Caicedo, certainly one of those. We're expecting some big developments on that one this week. The other players to keep an eye on, Romeo Lavia as well, as Dharmesh has mentioned, and Tyler Adams. Their interest is appearing to become a little bit more formal in the last 24 hours or so. He's a player at Leeds that currently has a release clause which we believe to be £20 million. He only joined a year ago, but could leave for 20 million, which is exactly what Leeds paid for him. There has been 2 or 3 other Premier League sides that have been interested in Tyler Adams as well. It's just a case now whether Chelsea decide to pay the release clause or sit down and talk with Leeds and say, right, let's come up with a structure that suits us.
Just very quickly, Mickey van der Ven.
Yes.
On the verge of signing for Tottenham. He was at the Shakhtar Donetsk friendly yesterday. We know that Tottenham have been looking for central defenders throughout this transfer window. He has started his medical with Tottenham this afternoon, so that could be a case of when and not if Van der Ven signs for Spurs.
That is the first transfer show in the new studio. We're standing up. How are your legs, boys? All right?
Yeah, good.
Sky Sports News is next. We're back at 7. See you in a moment.